Well, welcome to Thinking Out Loud. My name is Sheldon McLeod, and this is my spot at saltwire.com, where I want to join with you in building a community where we look a little bit deeper than the headlines, look beyond perhaps that gut reaction to the stories that we see around us, to look into perhaps a little more depth of what's going on. And that's sort of where I've been taking this, and thank you again for coming along for the ride. This is something that came about a few weeks ago, at least the discussion about a vote of non-confidence in Chief Dan Kinsella, the chief of Halifax Regional Police Association. In fact, a few weeks ago, there was an interview with the association president, Dean Stienburg, about why this was going on and what exactly was happening. In fact, there was a question that was being asked of the membership that it was as simple as, I have confidence in Chief Daniel Kinsella's ability to lead the Halifax police force. Yes or no? Well, the vote came in at over 83% turnout, and that it was overwhelmingly to the negative. 96% voted no on this question. And to talk to us about this is Sergeant Dean Stienburg with the Halifax Regional Police Association. Good day to you, sir.
Good day.
This is something that is in many ways, I feel, unprecedented. I don't recall this ever happening before. Tell me a little bit about what led to a vote of confidence in Chief Kinsella.
So this has been in the works for quite some time. We were first approached by the membership at the last fall AGM, and they wanted us to conduct this vote of confidence. We as an executive at that time weren't ready to do that. We felt that we hadn't exhausted every conventional avenue to try to affect positive change within the organization at that point. We also were having a hard time judging. While we knew there was a lot of people that weren't confident in the chief's ability to run the organization, we weren't really sure exactly where we sat. So in 2018, to give you the history on this, HRM conducted an engagement survey. The police scored very low in that engagement survey. In 2020, we asked them to run it again because we said, we've been out 2 years now. We should see if we can get a temperature for, or see if we're going in the right direction. HRM wouldn't do that. We conducted one ourselves, which gave us similar results. Then in 2020, 21, 22, HRM did come back and run the survey again. So at that point, we saw even more dismal numbers, and we said, okay, this isn't just a few people complaining. This is a serious problem within the organization. And that's when we decided, after trying every means that we could, conventional meetings, talking about what the situations were, providing solutions to what we felt were major problems that essentially fell on deaf ears. We said, okay, well, now we do have to find out for sure what our organization feels. And as the president of the organization, my personal opinion means nothing. I'm here to represent the organization and the members that elected me in this position. So that's how the vote actually came to be. So we voted electronically. I was actually quite surprised by the engagement rate. 83, 84% is a huge number of people putting forth.
So how many?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask, how many people voted? In rough numbers, do we know?
Yeah, about 550.
550. So you say you were surprised by the level of perhaps dissatisfaction with the chief's leadership?
No, not really. I was more surprised by how many people were engaged. Those are really big numbers when you talk about trying to get anyone engaged in anything. Most of the surveys and stuff, we'd only be able to get about 50%, and HRM only get about 50%. But in this case, people are passionate about it, and we got a huge turnout. Sadly, I wasn't totally shocked, although I have to say the number was higher than what I was anticipating. But that gave us a very, very clear mandate and a very, very clear message. If you look at the question was very simple. And the question gets to the heart of the issue. This isn't about, a popularity contest or whether we like someone or we don't like something. This question was about whether or not they've got confidence in the chief's ability or his capacity to run the organization. And the membership was very clear on that they don't believe that he has the capacity to run the organization or the ability to run it. And we want people to understand that this is about the inner workings of the organization and about structural change and things that have occurred inside that have been detrimental. And, I can give you a few quick examples to sort of people. So you talk about a restructuring in an org structure that saw our ops officer eliminated, that position eliminated. Well, that's a senior position member of the senior management team. This should be in any organization our side. And essentially what it is it's a position where a senior officer with a lot of experience and proper training is essentially in charge of taking care of ops plans for major events. And that way you make sure things don't get missed and things are done correctly. Well, that position was defunct, and it's sort of run off the sides of multiple people's desks now. And the resulting things that occur when things like that happen is we have Fiona that comes along. 4 days before, it's predicted to be the largest storm ever to hit Atlantic Canada. Well, one thing we know about Atlantic Canada, these storms can be devastating. 2 days before, we're looking at our dispatch center and say, how is it possible that we only have the minimum number of people scheduled to be in there? So we're calling and saying, we can't do this. We're going to get overrun by calls to try and get that in. And as it occurred, we did. We were overrun. Our people were absolutely overrun. And then you look at 4 hours into the event, and our diesel generator stops running because there was no one there to make sure that the diesel generator was full. So now we've got a major organization, a major police station, and our members don't have any power to come back and work on the computers and do things like that. You put that over into the Dal homecoming. So the Dalhousie homecoming, we all know that there's lots of issues in and around the Dalhousie incoming. Now we're hearing senior managers say, well, we didn't have enough intel. Well, why didn't you have enough intel? You didn't have enough intel because the people that normally do that work are being tasked to do other work, right? Which leads into our staffing woes and our staffing issues. Right? They're doing other work because we don't have enough staff. Well, everybody doesn't have enough staff. Well, no, our staff aren't being prioritized properly, which leads us into the members are frustrated about the fact that there's no real strategic direction occurring. Right? They feel that this chief and his administration isn't focused on crime reduction, isn't focused on solving crime, isn't focused on public safety, seem to be more focused on media. Social media, what's happening in the social media. We tend to react to that. And this frustrates the members. Part of what a chief is responsible to do, and when a chief comes here should have the prerequisite knowledge and understanding, is they need to say, well, predict what are our needs going to be for staffing over the next 3 to 5 years, and what are we going to do to accomplish that? And this is what didn't happen. So in 2020, we met with them, and we predicted this and said, you're going to have to do something to address this, or 2022, we're going to be in dire straits. You need to run 2 classes back to back. You need to start one of them in January. This fell on deaf ears. Class didn't start until late June, somewhere in around there. Another class wasn't put in place to be ready to start right after that one. And there's where the chief should be focusing. They say, okay, this is what I need. And you should be talking to the senior management team saying, well, what do we need to run 2 classes back to back? Well, we're going to have to get some more instructors up to speed. Right? The members are frustrated that they're not getting training. Right? Because we're so short, they're now running around, they're getting their training canceled left, right, and center. They know how important it is. The members are upset about, the work environment has become very almost hostile. They're worried about, even when they come to work and they do the right thing, that if it's in the political interests of the chief of police, they're going to be hung out to dry and they're going to be punished. And we saw that very clearly in the Clayton Park incident.
And we've heard a lot of reaction to that from the politicians, from the chief. And I wanted to ask about the goal as I went looking, because, again, non-confidence votes are more political than anything else in my experience and in most folks' experience. And the International Association of Chiefs of Police said, by definition, motion of confidence or no confidence is a parliamentary action. But it says when it comes to a chief receiving a vote of non-confidence, it usually means that there is dissatisfaction with the chief's performance, and the idea is to seek to remove him or her from office by expressing no confidence in the chief's leadership. So what does the membership want to see happen?
I think our mandate last night was very, very clear from the membership. They want to see the chief, if he was not willing to step down, that he needs to be removed from the position. They just don't have confidence in the ability. This isn't simply a personality conflict or, a couple of things that occurred. This is 97% of your organization says, we just don't have confidence that you can lead us where we need to go. And there's no way to recover from that, right? What they're actually saying is they don't believe the chief has the ability to be the chief, that he has the ability to make the correct decisions and do things. And I know that sounds harsh, but it's true. So I don't know how you come back from that. The reality is there's no 2-week course to teach you how to be the chief. You can't send them on remedial training. The idea is you come here as the chief of police, you probably have 25, 30 years background in policing, and you should have the prerequisite skills. And then once you get here, and these are the basic skills. These are anticipating what our needs are going to be. These are responding to occupational health and safety requirements through the whole pandemic. Our personal protective equipment was deplorable. Wasn't anywhere where it should have been in any way, shape, or form. Then you look at other things that occur as we go through. Something as simple as a police officer saying, look, we need audio recorders. When we go to statement, we ought to take statements. We're writing them out by hand. This takes us forever. Makes the call twice as long. We're so busy now and we're so short. We need things to make it. Audio recordings for statements are far better from an evidentiary standpoint as well. So there's a lot of reasons to have this. This is less than a $10,000 ask. Yet here we are a year and a half later, and we still don't have this stuff. You talk about body-worn cameras. So through 2020, and there was an awful call for accountability within the police all over the world, everywhere. We recognize that. We endorsed the body-worn cameras. We said our officers absolutely would like to have them. They'd like to wear them. They want people to see what we actually deal with day in and day out, and how we try to diffuse things, and how rare it is that we end up in major use of force events. Yet here we are a year and a half later, and it's tied up somewhere. And I can't even get a straight answer as to who's not making the decision. Is it coming from the Board of Police Commissioners, or is it coming from our management team? Neither one can seem to give me an answer as to why it is that we haven't purchased these body-worn cameras. They're not huge. It's not a huge expense. It's a much better way to collect evidence for prosecution.
So given what you've just explained, that this is a pretty serious situation involving the confidence or the lack of confidence in this chief, what happens if he does not either leave voluntarily or is not removed by the board?
It's a good question. I mean, I think I don't want to put the cart before the horse. I mean, we've not even had the opportunity to sit down yet with the Board of Police Commissioners or, with the CAO's office to truly discuss what all the issues are. And that's what we'd like to do. And frankly, I'm not that interested in airing our dirty laundry to the whole world. And, this was a year and a half in the making before we came out. And it was only after we couldn't achieve any satisfaction whatsoever in any other way. So what I'd like to see come from this is I'd like to see, if the chief is not going to step down, if he feels that he can in fact lead and somehow regain the confidence, I'd like to sit down with the Board of Police Commissioners and the CAO's office and have a frank discussion about what needs to happen and why and how we got to this point. Because we haven't. I mean, for privacy reasons and a lot of things that have occurred, we're not willing to get out and talk publicly about it. Our members, many of them feel that they've been subject to harassment inside the organization when they've come forward. It's been buried. They haven't been able to get their voice heard. We've not been able to move their voice forward on things like this. It's frustrating. A lot of our diverse members, it's a bit alarming as to what's occurring and what's happening there. But these aren't things that we're prepared to come forward with publicly right now. But what we're hoping is that this makes people understand that this isn't, as the chief would suggest, one person or a couple members of the executive that are particularly unhappy. The members of the executive, our opinion, quite frankly, means nothing. We are here to be reflective of the membership that we were voted in, and that's exactly what we're doing. And we've got a very clear mandate last night.
I guess the final question is, when it comes to contract negotiations, historically, HRP has had long-term labor agreements in place. Some might suggest this is somewhere in that conversation of renegotiating contracts, but just for clarity's sake, where are you at with the collective agreement? When is the next one up for negotiation?
We're not up for negotiation for another 2 years, which means we won't even be at the table for another 2.5 years probably. This has absolutely nothing to do with contract negotiations. That process is in place and it works fine. This is about how the organization is run and the fact that our members just feel that we're not providing anywhere near the service that we should be for HRM, and that we're going to see rising crime, and that things like crime, fighting crime, crime prevention, solving crimes don't seem to be a priority right now of the chief. And when you look at that and you say, well, in 2021, we had a record number of shootings. We knew about that early in the year, but really nothing was done or addressed it until we had 2 children shot, something that's never happened in this city before in my 30 years here. And then all of a sudden it does become a priority for a short period of time. And we just believe that violent crime is going to continue to raise. And if we don't get this train turned around and get it back on track, we're going to be back into the late 90s and the early 2000s when we were per capita one of the most violent cities in the country. And the members that have been here for a while know how hard it was and how much work was done to drop that statistic, to drop the violent crime in this city. And now they see it going the wrong way. And they're very upset about it. And they believe that it's because we're just not making the correct strategic priorities. And we're just not getting the leadership from the top to move us in the direction that we should be. They just feel we're being managed by social media. Whatever happens to be the flavor of the day in social media is where we'll turn our attention. And it's usually for a very short period of time.
Well, we will obviously have to see what the reaction or response is from the chief, from the Board of Police Commissioners, and obviously the tensions are high. That there is a lot of frustration. That's evident in the results in this vote. The question, pretty straightforward. And Sergeant Stienburg, I guess, in a lot of ways, as we wrap up this conversation, it's more than just communication right now. This is not a communication issue. This is a basic a feeling that they're not being supported. Is that fair?
That's 100% fair. This is not a relationship issue at all. This is a performance issue. 110% a performance issue.
Sergeant Dean Stienburg, thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you.